A well-grown gopher took up residence in a thicket of mallow weeds in the vacant lot on Cannery Row. It was a perfect place. The deep green, luscious mallows towered up, crisp and rich, and as they matured, their little cheeses hung down provocatively. The earth was perfect for a gopher hole, too, black and soft, and yet with a little clay in it so that it didn't crumble and the tunnels didn't cave in. The gopher was fat and sleek, and he had always plenty of food in his cheek pouches. His little ears were clean and well set, and his eyes were as black as old-fashioned pinheads and just about the same size. His digging hands were strong, and the fur on his back was glossy brown, and the fawn-colored fur on his chest was incredibly soft and rich. He had long, curving yellow teeth and a little short tail. Altogether, he was a beautiful gopher and in the prime of his life.
He came to the place overland and found it good, and he began his burrow on a little eminence where he could look out among the mallow weeds and see the trucks go by on Cannery Row. He could watch the feet of Mac and the boys as they crossed the lot to the palace flop house. As he dug down into the coal-black earth, he found it even more perfect, for there were great rocks under the soil. When he made his great chamber for the storing of food, it was under a rock so that it could never cave in, no matter how hard it rained. It was a place where he could settle down and raise any number of families, and the burrow could increase in all directions.
It was beautiful in the early morning when he first poked his head out of the burrow. The mallows filtered green light down on him, and the first rays of the rising sun shone into his hole and warmed it so that he lay there content and very comfortable.
When he had dug his great chamber and his 4 emergency exits and his waterproof deluge room, the gopher began to store food. He cut down only the perfect mallow stems and trimmed them to the exact length he needed, and he took them down the hole and stacked them neatly in his great chamber and arranged them so they wouldn't ferment or get sour. He had found the perfect place to live. There were no gardens about, so no one would think of setting a trap for him. Cats there were, many of them, but they were so bloated with fish heads and guts from the canneries that they had long ago given up hunting. The soil was sandy enough so that water never stood about or filled a hole for too long. The gopher worked and worked until he had his great chamber crammed with food. Then he made little side chambers for the babies who would inhabit them. In a few years, there might be thousands of his progeny spreading out from this original hearthstone.
But as time went on, the gopher began to be a little impatient, for no female appeared. He sat in the entrance of his hole in the morning and made penetrating squeaks that are inaudible to the human ear, but can be heard deep in the earth by other gophers. And still no female appeared. Finally, in a sweat of impatience, he went up across the track until he found another gopher hole. He squeaked provocatively in the entrance. He heard a rustling and smelled female, and then out of the hole came an old, battle-torn bull gopher, who mauled and bit him so badly that he crept home and lay in his great chamber for 3 days recovering, and he lost 2 toes from one front paw from that fight.
Again, he waited and squeaked beside his beautiful burrow in the beautiful place, but no female ever came, and after a while he had to move away. He had to move 2 blocks up the hill to a dahlia garden, where they put out traps every night.